Fine, thank you.
Carrie? Is that Carrie?
That's, we got Tom, and we have Michaela, and of course we have you, Benno, and Barbara, who's River Run.
Yeah, he just said hi to me.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Reenah, and I'm making this call from Australia. And let me start with saying hello to our participants and extending that hello to our listeners out there. So, what are we here for today? We're here to celebrate friendship. Some of us here have known each other for 3 years through the written word on the Eckhart Tolle Forum, and a couple of you I've met before on a face-to-face format. And thanks to Google Plus now, we have an opportunity to meet to bring our meeting to a deeper level of meeting face-to-face. We're going to have a couple of ground rules here so that everyone can get a chance to express. Everyone has a different rhythm of expressing, and there are some pretty sharp expressors here today who are very clear in their articulation, and a couple of us perhaps have a slower rhythm and need to take time and moments to allow something to arise to be expressed. So when it's our turn to express, please don't feel you have to fill in any blank spaces. If you need to sit there for 2 minutes in silence to allow something to arise, so be it. And when we finished our sharing, we can say thank you at the end, and then we know that the other has finished. Furthermore, let's make this a practice for listening as well, as much as expressing, and observing our listening filters. Like when someone's expressing, we may feel like, oh, I already know that, or, you know, oh, geez, if you hung out with me a few years ago, you would have known that already, or I totally agree, or no, I disagree, that's not how it is. Whatever the filter may be, let's observe how these things arise and how we really receive one another. And because we're not really here to agree or disagree or even to understand, really we're here to share and to receive just the purity of the other as they are. So today we have a subject, and it's a subject inspired by Bibi's post. Michaela felt it would be a great topic, and I'm very passionate about this topic also. It's regarding our relationships with our family or friends or lovers in so-called spiritual awakening. So how do we experience our relationships? Some say they feel some sort of separation, like they're misunderstood and they look crazy to people, and their family somehow distance themselves. And other people say, well, what's on the outside is also on the inside. And do we give meaning to the way our families respond? So let's do a rotate system here of sharing, and when you finish your sharing, you can put your microphones back on mute. So does anyone want to put their hand up and go first, or what do you think, Tom? How does it go in your family?
Oh, geez, I have to start, huh? Okay.
Well, my current family really hasn't known too much of a contrast in me. When you're talking family, I think you probably, in my case, we have to go back probably quite a few years to my original family. Then I can probably talk a little bit about this subject. I mean, I remember growing up and feeling like I was kind of viewed as somewhat eccentric. Of course, I probably still am, but at the time, being called eccentric or kind of different or whatever, I mean, that was highly wounding for me and probably started me off kind of on a shame basis from very early childhood. And to fast forward quite a bit, because I could talk, probably we could all talk a lot about our early childhoods, but I think that by the time I was in my early adulthood, I probably had many years behind me of kind of trying to find something from my original family. Now I'm talking about maybe particularly my parents, find some kind of acceptance or connection or whatever you want to call it. I was a hypersensitive child. I think that I kind of needed maybe some things that other kids maybe don't need so intensely or whatever. And so that was a factor, I think, in driving me into addiction. I'm a recovering alcoholic, as I've shared on the forums quite a bit. And then once again, to fast forward and make this kind of brief, after I started to realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm looking in other people, maybe particularly my family of origin, I'm looking in other people and other people around me too, my social environment, my larger social environment, friends, etc., for something that I can only find within myself. And oh, really? And it was just, I don't know, just like an awakening, like we say. Oh, and so then the energy, as Eckhart has said many times, the energy shifts pretty radically then when you realize who you are and you connect with your deeper self, and then people start responding to you differently. And once I stopped trying to get from other people and realized that I have everything and that I'm not this huge need, capital N need, that I have everything, I'm full and I'm abundant, and there's like overflowing within me. I can just give, and oh, well, extraordinary relief. So in short, my relationships with my family changed very significantly, and everybody else for that matter. Just a very distinct shift. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that. So thank you, and I'll turn my mic off. Thought I did.
I'll follow on. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Barb, please go ahead.
Well, just what Tom was saying about his sensitivity as a child, I very much relate to that, and to feeling as though I wasn't getting what I needed. It was just, I suppose, that time culturally where parents didn't know how to maybe connect with their children the way they do today. So there just wasn't the love and affection that I craved. So I suppose I spent a lot of time in nature and making my connection that way. And that sensitivity kind of, as Tom, as similar to Tom, I think that's what made me develop an addiction, and mine was bulimia, and I used that for a long time just to give me that sense of security that I didn't have, and I used it as a way to cope with feelings that I wasn't able to talk about with my family, and that I didn't understand even in myself, and they just frightened me, really. So that was, it was for a big part of my life, that period of living with the addiction. And so coming out of it, and actually, funnily enough, even when I was in the addiction, I always had this intuitive sense that I was connected to something greater, but it was on a very peripheral sense. And the momentum of the addiction was so huge that I just really couldn't connect with it. So I had to come out of the addiction a bit before I could connect in with the whole thing that Eckhart teaches. And that part of me gradually is becoming more grounded and more central in my identity. So I guess as things are changing for me, my relationships with my family and my friends are changing, because there is, I feel, a softening going on as I've become more compassionate and understanding with myself, and as I just develop through noticing even what's going on in my mind, there is this acceptance coming, and that acceptance is then extending out to other people. And also, you know, there's other things I notice with friends, that I have less of a need to be right. I was very attached to being right, to opinions, and that my opinion was the right opinion, and I would fall out with people. And now I just am able to let those kind of things go. So yeah, without it, I know that's very general, but it's kind of generally things are getting a lot better for me since I've come into this deeper connection with my true identity. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
I guess I could start. Can you guys see me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm kind of a little confused. What exactly is the question?
Okay, so we are sharing on our experiences with our families in awakening. There's been a bit of I think there's a thread on it at the moment on the Eckhart Tolle forum, how some people find as they deepen in their awakening, they experience some challenges in their relating with their family. And so it's just a sharing on your own experience with the people around you in your close relationships.
Sure. Guess I'd have to go back to when I was about in my late teens, maybe 18. That's when I really started to read about and at least conceptually understand what all this was about. And at that time, I really don't think it changed my relationships all that much. I still basically lived my life normally. When I was about 26, I got married, my first wife, and you know how Eckhart talks about the pain body? Well, she had probably the worst pain body that any person could have, and I had 3 children with her, and after I would say 5 years, we divorced. And so for the next 20 years, I had to basically see the kids every other weekend and that sort of thing. I think that the awakening started at that point. But it kind of stalled out, I would say, until about 5 years ago. And until that point, I think I understood it conceptually, but I really didn't apply it in my life. And then about 5 years ago, I decided that I don't know why. I don't really know why I decided at that point. It just started to happen at that point. And I started reading again, and I'd say in that first year I came across the Eckhart Tolle A New Earth, and I'd already read The Power of Now, but kind of sporadically. It was actually a gift to my brother who was into spiritual books. And I found it at the library, and I read through it, and I thought, oh, this is pretty good. That'd make it a good gift, so I gave it to him. And but when I read A New Earth, then it really kind of all came together. I said, look, this is what I want to do. I always really did want to do this, but I just never had too many other things going on in my life. So I'm remarried now with my second wife, and it wasn't too challenging, the relationship, up until about 5 years ago. But yes, now that I started getting more serious, it started getting more challenging, almost in direct proportion. But I'm trying to work through it. I mean, it's challenging at times. So it's an ongoing process, I think, at this time. It's going fairly well, but who knows? I guess that's it. I'm done.
Yes. Thank you, Benno.
You're welcome.
Just to let everyone know, it's fine if we have some silence in between and just people coming in when they feel to.
Yeah, I just wanted to give it a little bit of silence. Yeah, that relationship part is interesting because in my case, I think spirituality was the last thing I ever thought I would end up. So when this happened, it came as a big surprise to me. And it happened at a phase. I already moved back to my hometown. I had lived abroad for quite a while. So in a way, I was a stranger, or I had become a stranger to the people I was related to, but kind of reconnected. And then, as I said, this awakening happened, and of course, in the beginning, as beautiful as it was, of course, there was the question, what am I going to do about the others now? And but everything went very smooth, I would say, in the first few months. So basically, I didn't speak much about it, but probed a little bit here and there, then I think what people noticed, or I thought they noticed, was that I started to withdraw. That was really a time I really needed for myself, to be reflective, to go into myself, and I really at this time couldn't really bear to have too many people around me. Not that I didn't like them or didn't know what to talk to them about, but it was really a time I needed to be more self-reflective. Is this okay? Okay. And then basically, as I eased more into this, then I realized that basically the people I was closest to actually started to move with me. And that was a very, very interesting experience, because in a way that brought me closer again to people I hadn't had too much close contact with for quite a while. So for example, with my brother, with my younger brother, who at the time was working in Africa, but we were on Skype ever so often, and he had an awakening pretty much the same time. So basically, we went along for quite a while, and then one of my sisters had a health problem, and at the same time, also I think, without really using that word, or in her case, not really understanding what it really was, but basically I could very well understand the symptoms. So basically what I saw was that people really started to move with me. Then, of course, there were others who basically started really to move out of my life. And that was not traumatic. It was more that these people suddenly no longer were there. So it was really these two movements. There was a part of my friends and family that moved, basically pretty much about everyone in my family that moved closer, but there were definitely friends I have been close with that moved away. And it was not that we had a conflict or even a fight. It was just naturally. It was like, after a while you think, I haven't heard of this person a long time, and they basically just moved out of this. So the only thing maybe I had worried in this time was that people may talk behind my back about me being so withdrawn, because really, I really had a hermit face. But it turns out they never. It seems to come with the whole mix, isn't it? But it seemed they never really realized this. Somehow, they just didn't see me that often, but it never really registered. And so I thought, fine, so really the whole thing in terms of the relationship went relatively smooth in my case. And in the end, I think then I realized that basically in each relationship, there was a little bit of a message for me, in terms of if there was a conflict or an affirmation. I really started to learn with the relationship in my life in terms of where were the points I had to look at, or if there were other areas of interest, and I really very much started to see the other as a mirror, if you will, for myself. If you'll allow me to talk, I will talk the whole evening. So I think I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Yes, it's been interesting with my family. It appears that it's sort of been stages of, I guess, my concepts about spiritual awakening in the beginning, whereby when I would sit with teachers like as early as 19 years old and sitting with Osho, somehow there was the understanding, and so I started to look at things from a different perspective, but I realize now that somehow I hadn't embodied it. And how I know this is by the response I was receiving from people around me, because somehow I developed a new language, and even today some of us, we make distinctions with spirituality, for example, spaciousness, vastness, terms like this. And so to bring these words home to my close relationships or families, of course, it's just a concept. They have no idea what I'm talking about. And then somehow in the earlier days, I guess I perceived there was a separation of, oh, well, I'm just not understood and they're not getting it, like... But then as I begin to embody the understanding and come up with distinctions, there sort of seemed no need to even talk about this with people close to me anymore, about inviting them to be space or inviting them to be any different than what they are. And somehow there's a deeper peace in me that they're perceiving, and this somehow enables them to relax around me. So I'm finding that there's less separation now. There's a deeper acceptance, and I don't sort of have such a need to put meaning on people who do separate from me or may judge me, because that's all fine too. So I guess, like I said, the realization is, for me, was the understanding resonates with the spiritual teachers, but then how effectual is this for us? Like Adyashanti says, where does the rubber meet the road? Do we first understand it and then, and then we embody it? Does it happen at the same time? I'm interested to know how you all experience this. And I'd just like to add that while I'm here, that the inspiration of us gathering, of course, was due to Benno's thread about let's have a meeting together. And we thought that, well, if we can't get physically in the same place, like in Canada or somewhere else in the world at the moment, let's just start with a hangout and practice sharing our hearts and just showing ourselves. So this seems like a really good way to start. So thanks, Benno.
Oh, no problem.
For inspiration.
Well, it certainly is cheaper. It is cheaper than, trying to fly to the other side of the world, or on our part or your part, for sure. I mean, if we
I,
were really having a gathering, how many could really go? I'd be surprised half a dozen would be able to make it.
well, I think Michaela and I are real optimists
Oops, I've
on this.
lost you.
Lost us. So
Oh, really?
who knows? Who knows? This is a start. Well, you know, we're showing up now, right? So let's just stay open.
You know what's
One
amazing is
knows.
there,
But,
there's no delay, is there? Like, are you hearing me a few seconds later, or do you know what I'm
there's
saying?
no
Like, you know,
delay.
usually when you watch news, there's like a big delay. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite instant. It's like we're in the same room. It's like, you know, time
It's
and space
crazy.
collapses, and here we are together. I mean, we're in 3 different continents here today. Here we are all, it appears like we're in the same room, and so we got someone in the United States, we've got down under here in Australia, we've got Europe, you know, Ireland and Austria, and it's wonderful. Canada,
Yeah.
of course. So,
Good
yeah,
stuff.
it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Can I say something just more about the family stuff?
Please.
An example that, recent example, I haven't seen my sister for about 15 years. She lives in the States now, and we had a big rift because of old family stuff. You know, I was talking to my father, and she didn't forgive me for talking to my father. It was just something crazy, and so we didn't talk to each other for years. And then out of the blue, I heard that she was back, and she had her 2 kids, and she wanted to see me, and you know, she had shown no interest in seeing me before, and she hadn't replied to my letters, etc. But if it wasn't for, as you were saying, Reenah, the embodiment of the message, which for me is kind of coming out of the stuff of my mind and just residing in my body, which really is where the intelligence is, you know, which is far more me than anything else. I wouldn't have been able to meet her, and as a result, the meeting with her was just incredibly fresh, and it's like everything of the past has just lost its importance. It's lost its heaviness, because this is the important thing, that we were able to just be in the present moment, and I wouldn't have been able to do that before. But the funny thing is that I thought, oh, then after that, this is great. I'm really making some kind of progress. You know, things are opening up with my family, and no sooner had I thought that than I met my brother, and I could feel the same old patterns re-emerging, and it sort of clashed with him again. But at least I saw the signposts before we had the clash. You know, I didn't kind of have the clash and think afterwards, oh God, you know, I've done it again. It's like things are slowing down, and I'm able to just be far less reactive. And I mean, it sounds like nothing, but for me, it's pretty big. You know, I'm just coming from a different space. That's what it feels like, and I'm coming from a truer space, and that's what's important to me now. That it's not about what I do with my family. It's that I'm coming from that truer place. It's not really important to me whether they get me or not. It's just more important that I am authentic towards them. And as you say, you know, sometimes you might say things and people don't really get you until you really are doing it. You know, you really are that spacious presence. And so coming out of my mind and into my body has been the biggest change for me. And life is so much easier. The more I do that, life has just become so much easier. And it's a tremendous relief as well. Mm-hmm.
So it seems when we embody it, it makes a difference in our life. Does anyone else experience this? Where rubber hits the road? Like, how much do these teachings really affect our happiness or satisfaction, if you like?
I think it affects it big time. I guess what I was going to say is, I mean, there are still challenges. Life is always going to have challenges. You know, awakening doesn't mean your challenges disappear or go away. It just means that there's a sense of peace and wholeness that is underlying that, which allows you to handle your challenges better and accept them because they're there. Whereas before, you were always trying to change the outer circumstances to become challengeless. So there's a sense that, you know, life is full of challenges, and the awakening allows you to find a deeper place within that allows you then, when you interact with the outer world, to deal with things in a much better way, much more intelligent way, much more loving way. So yeah, there's still challenges. It's just how you deal with them changes, I think. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, that sounds very good, Benno. Yeah, I mean, you started off your share there by saying there are still challenges, and you know who could really disagree with you? But unlike before, those challenges aren't problems. They're just, oh well, you know. So this is happening. So that's not happening. You know, sure. I mean, I still feel disappointed. I still feel anxious sometimes. Sadness, you know, whatever, regret, pain. Yeah, I mean, I still feel those things. It's just that they're not problems, if you know what I mean. You know, so what? You know, I think that at first I assumed that awakening or enlightenment or whatever term you want to use meant that you were in a kind of more or less continuous state of bliss. You know? And but that just indicated my addiction, my addiction to being high, you know, and now I realize it just doesn't matter. What I feel, what's going on in my, you know, between the ears and behind the eyes, you know, what might be going on in my interactions with my social environment, people around me, family, friends, work associates, whatever. I mean, none of this stuff matters ultimately. Eckhart says, and for those of you who have listened to Eckhart's October presentation, he makes a good point. He makes this point several times before this is even before he comes, you know, into that dialogue with Peter Russell. He says many times, he says, one's realization of who one is becomes so poignant that it's like, how could anything else really matter ultimately at that point? I mean, let whatever happens happens. If what you want to have happen doesn't happen, that doesn't matter either. I mean, you could drop dead and it wouldn't matter to who you are. You know, if even death doesn't matter, then what the hell does, really? Do you know that peace? Do you know that? Do you feel that peace? Do you know what that feels like? Tell me about it.
So here's a question. Can we...
No, wait. Do you mind if I interrupt you, Reenah?
Please, go ahead.
I want the other people in my room here to tell me how that feels for them. Because I know you feel it.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying, that I do feel it. And but there's always that one challenge that comes along that's a doozy, and it can knock you off your horse, and then you feel like, oh God, I've made no progress. I'm just back where I started again. I'm just, but I'm sure now. I'm sure that that it's there, and I feel that peace of 90% of the time. And then there's times when you get caught up, or something happens and you just lose yourself for a little while. But I always come back, and it's getting stronger and stronger. And especially in the morning, I don't know what it is, but in the morning I'm good, really good. And then as the day as the day progresses, you kind of go in and out. But I can't complain. It's going well. Yeah, I mean the peace thing.
Tom, I would say that I feel two energies going on inside me. One is that I do mind what happens, but I'm aware of the other energy that doesn't mind at all. The two are there. So I wouldn't say that I completely don't mind what happens, because for me that's then a bit too much of a disengagement with what is happening. So I think it's like the two things are going along at the same time, and I'm aware of the part of me that really doesn't give a damn what happens, not in a callous way, but it's just very at peace with whatever happens. And the other part of me is engaged, because I realize I can go, this whole path, you can become lopsided, and maybe it's necessary to become lopsided, but for me it's about coming into balance, and maybe that whole balancing thing it's necessary to experience yourself completely as that part of you that really sees everything and isn't affected by it, to totally identify with that. And I know that you emphasize that a lot in what you write about as being a very important part of the process. But for me, how it's working at the moment is that those two energies seem to be happening both at the same time. And because I feel that if I don't just let it happen, just kind of as an act of faith or as an act of trust, I will just lose my spontaneity and my enjoyment of life also. Now that could change tomorrow, and I could feel a real pull to just identifying with that part that watches everything and doesn't engage. So that's just what I feel today, but that's not to say that it's the right way to be, because one thing that this process is teaching me is that our paths come to us in so many different ways. Like, we're presented with the way that is right for us, and it's unique. I think there's a uniqueness to all of them. I don't know if does anybody else find that?
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate very much to what you're saying, even though I think I experience it a little different, and I think everyone experiences it differently. And this is not even to compare, but it's interesting to understand, you know, I mean, all those different experiences. But you know, I mean, the one thing I wanted to share, and that was just such an revelation to me, and it only happened a few weeks ago, and that was, you know, we had like 32 degrees here in Vienna, which is 95, 96 degrees Fahrenheit. And it was just a mess of a day in August, and everything was going wrong. And I had to go public transportation, and you know, when it just, of course, there's no air condition, and you know, when it was all sweaty and tired and messy, and you know, I forgot something and I missed the appointment. It was just like a day from hell. And suddenly, I sit in this bus and think, you know what? I could not be happier sitting on the beach sipping a pina colada. And then I thought, you know, I think that's the bliss thing. And, you know, it was, you know, and then it dawned on me, you know, I mean, it's not, you know, I mean, all those beautiful peak experiences that, of course, are there, and the spaciousness and the peace and everything else. It is simply being able, sitting on a bus and everything is going wrong and you are sweating and you have missed your appointment and everything else, and you're sitting there and think, you know, I'm just happy. I'm just happy. And even though, you know, I mean, you need to take care of things, and even though you're frustrated, but it does not, let me put it like this. It doesn't matter if you know, I mean, this is the happiest day of my world, of my life, and you know, I mean, everything I ever wished for is happening, or this is the worst day of my life, and all these bullshit things are happening. It doesn't matter, and you know, I mean, maybe that was you know, I mean, really the biggest insight. And since I know that, this has kind of given me a certain direction, because now I can look out for that, not seek it, but calibrate it, if you will. If something wants to grasp or something wants to hold on, and it's like, you know, I'm kind of staying in the center. I think I'm done. Thank you.
I was wondering whether we can spot the challenges just before they arise, and do we have a choice to give them attention or not? Is it that these challenges that arise, is it that we give them a meaning or a seriousness? Is it possible as a human to say, well, actually, you know, I'm not going to run with this thread of thought?
Yeah, I think so. Because when you have a challenge, I think it triggers memories of similar challenges in the past, which are associated with feelings. And so everything kind of cascades on itself, and you can fall right into it like a vortex. So I think it's really important to have a sense of awareness just before it gets out of hand, I think. And then you can pretty well stop it. It's my experience. Oh, look at the kitty!
This is Lauhu.
Hi, Lauhu.
Oh!
Wow.
Wow!
Hello.
14-pound Maine Coon.
Ooh.
Beautiful, yes.
Must have some lion in him.
He's a gentle giant.
I wonder if he thinks our challenges are real.
Yeah. Well, he's not too interested right now in discussing spirituality. He wants his food, so which for him is his number one priority, food. But
I think what I was meaning to say is there a choice point? Has anyone discovered, is there a choice point that arises when something's coming up and we notice, here's pain body-like? Has anyone noticed that there is a choice point to run with it, for example, or not?
Yeah.
And is it hard to spot?
It's like it's a continuous choice for me. It's not just one choice. It's something that keeps arising. Like even this thing tonight, I noticed today that there was anxiety arising about this meeting. And I decided to try and just look at it. It was very good, because it was a good exercise for me just to watch it, and I didn't feed it, but it did arise again a few times throughout the day. But it's fine, really. I mean, it's just, it's the mind is kind of what we work with. If we didn't have the mind, we wouldn't have anything to kind of work with, really. That's our tool of awakening in a way, or is it? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting confused with that. I mean, if we didn't have a mind to see, then we wouldn't need to be here. That's our awakening. That's our continuous awakening, isn't it? Something.
Yeah.
Help me, Michaela.
No. I mean, you're really expressing it very, very well. And I've just been thinking of an example just of today, because we had a big family gathering, and my mother's place, and she cooked lunch, and it was like 18 people. I went out there and thought, oh my God, oh my God, this is like 18 people and all this energy and all this noise, and it's a big and chaotic family, and I love them to bits, but they're just very chaotic. And then I thought, I'm all doing this myself, and if you step back and basically just slightly adapt your own attitude and your own energy, and you go in, and then it's basically absolutely fine, and maybe this is in a way really the choice point is are you meeting this in an energy of apprehension, doubt, maybe also your own egoic fears and reactions, which of course are there, or if you basically just step back a little bit and recalibrate yourself in terms of energy, and it makes a whole lot of difference. And this is just as an example, not just being in a situation, but really actually changing your whole experience before it actually happens.
Well, what happens?
Please continue, Benno.
No, that's okay. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. It was a lovely sharing. I was wondering that if we notice choice point, is that suppression if we're going to make a choice? I'm curious how people experience that.
I think it's the realization that you've been in your head. You know, you suddenly realize you've been caught up in a stream of thought, and now you're aware of that. And the moment you're aware of that, you're kind of a step out of it, and you're already a step freer. And because it's a constant back and forth. I mean, let's face it. You know, you get caught up. You run with it for a bit, and then you suddenly are aware of it, and you go, oh, hang on a second. I can see now I was just caught up in this whole process. So I think it's the awareness of how the whole process works, of how the interaction with the outer world and the inner world, and how things are interacting together. And that's the first step, I think, is just to be aware at that moment.
Actually, you know, Reenah, it's weird because one of the things I noticed about the topic, first of all, when I heard you were doing a topic about family and friends, I thought, oh no, I just didn't know what I would say. But it actually made me reflect, and I got a realization that even though, you know, you could say that I'm probably doing fine and I feel okay, I avoid so many situations that cause me the discomfort, that cause me to feel separation. And in a way, it's not so much that it's an addiction, but I love the feeling of being connected so much. You know, the feeling, say, of when I'm in nature, and mostly I get it, you know, I have no problem feeling it when I'm on my own. But as soon as I'm with a lot of people, I lose it. You know, it's very hard for me to maintain that beautiful connection. And I have recognized from, you know, the topic that you presented is that I avoid my family for the reason that I get this feeling of separation, which feels painful. And maybe I need to push myself, challenge myself a bit more, and put myself into those situations that are not so easy, because, you know, it's part of life too. I'm not really facing up to the challenges that I should be. You know, it's easy to feel this beautiful presence when you're sitting alone in your room or when you're in nature, and it's wonderful, and it's almost addictive. You know, I want to feel that all the time. I really want to feel that connection. But then sometimes as soon as I open my mouth, it's gone. You know, there's this thing of my mind starts going, and I feel the pain. You know, I just feel this pain of separation. But at least now I know that there's this huge difference. You know, I feel the difference in quality is so great between that connected feeling and that feeling of separation. You know, and I really would like to bring that more together, so that more of my life I live more of my life in that state of connection.
Yeah.
That's what I would like.
Yeah, you know, oh, sorry.
Well, no, go ahead, Michaela. I'll follow up.
Yeah. I just wanted to add something to what Barbara said, and I think this has very much to do with relation in families. Because I realized that quite recently, and also as of today, in your family, you are used to connect in a certain way. And as it was in our family, it's very much a mind thing. You know, I mean, it's very much an intellectual mind thing, really. We are very much used to live in the concept and exchange the concepts and everything else. And for the longest time, that it was exactly like you said, you know, I mean, I realized that this is the way we used to connect, that I couldn't connect like this anymore or any longer, but I didn't know how to connect differently. And it was only when I started to really discover, when this whole process basically went from the mind basically more in the embodiment phase, that I started really to feel the others. And that, interestingly enough, took care of this, because I mean, still not, I mean, fully flowing, but it's been such a different experience, and that I did not think I would have ever had a connection like this with anyone in my family. And it's nice for them, it's relaxing for them. They don't even know what's happening, and it's a way of exploring for me. And all it took was to put my own attention from here to basically there, and started to feel something, or in a way I had never connected. I'd never connected with them, and this is how it developed. And it's actually pretty easy, but it took me quite a while to consciously A, get it, and B, do it.
Yeah, it's almost like some of us, I don't know if this is necessarily true of you, Michaela, but I think some of us became so accustomed in at least in my original family. I remember being young in this family and feeling kind of like, if not victimized, at least powerless. And the ironic thing about it is that those people who remain living to this day, several decades later, I find it's almost like the tables have turned, and I'm kind of the one with I hesitate to use the word power here, because I'm not talking about coerciveness here. I'm talking about the power to and I wonder if this is what you were getting at, Michaela, the power to kind of determine the energy in the interaction. And I was always the one who felt I had no power, and now all of a sudden it's kind of like, it almost feels like I'm the vortex of energy here in the midst of this extended family clan. But also, if no one minds, I'd like to respond also to what you said, Barb, about this concern you have about not feeling this sense of connection at all times. And I think this is a phase that all of us go through, really. I know I can relate to that. The concern that, well, when I'm walking through the autumn forest, or walking by Lake Michigan, or alone in my room, or reading Eckhart, or whatever, I have this sense of deep connection and serenity. But now I have to go to work tomorrow, or I have to do this, or I have to do that, or I have to be around other people, or I have to go out, or whatever, and then I, as you put it, lose it. And I have found that whenever the mind presents me with a dualism, that in itself is a false problem. Okay, it's almost like there's a dualism there between having it and not having it, and that, to me, that's a trap that the mind sets. Okay, because you are always inclusive of both poles. All right, the who you are is inclusive of both those poles, the having it and not having it. There's a guy that I don't think I've seen on the forums too much, but he quoted, his name is Brian, I don't know, he quoted something from Lao Tzu, and one of the lines from Lao Tzu was, if you want to be at peace, allow yourself to be distressed. And I thought that's pure paradox.
Yeah, but that also talks about surrender.
Yes, exactly.
The allowing of it to be allows you to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Same as what Barb was saying. Yeah.
Exactly. But also what Barb was saying is that, if I understood you correctly, Barb, you were actually concerned to I think you even used the word maintain. I don't know, maybe you didn't use the word maintain, but that was the idea. How do I maintain this sense of connection that I have when I'm alone, when I'm around all these fools out here, and all these people that can hurt me, and all these people who I think are still asleep or whatever, and it's like there's no need to maintain this. It's who you are. You can't lose who you are. Now, are you conscious of it in the same way when you're out among people as when you're alone? Well, maybe not, but so what? You can't lose.
But you can be aware that you're not aware. You can be aware that you're out of touch.
Yeah, but if you're aware, right. If you're aware that you're not aware, Benno, then you're aware.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, and that's it's kind of like what Michaela was just saying. It's here, and I would have never expected it to be here. Riding in this hot train, and on this awful day, and it's
all good.
yeah. I mean, the opposites between having it and not having it is a false dilemma.
Sure, it is. But it's the mind. It's a mind-created dilemma.
It's a mind-created problem. And once again, if you want to be at peace, allow yourself to be distressed.
I want to ask a question here. Not knowing what's going to happen next, or not knowing how things are going to turn out, is aliveness. Yet often we label it as anxiety or fear or pain or separation.
I have a little blurb here that's about labels. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Do you want to hear it?
Please, yes.
I wish I had more light here. It's getting dark. Hang on. I got to put my glasses on.
That's okay. Show us your glass face. We'll still love you.
Okay. Thank you. The important thing is not to know who I is or what I is. You'll never succeed. There are no words for it. The important thing is to drop the labels. As the Japanese Zen masters say, don't seek the truth, just drop your opinions. Drop your theories. Don't seek the truth. Truth isn't something you search for. If you stop being opinionated, you would know. Something similar happens here. If you drop your labels, you would know. What do you mean by labels? Every label you can conceive of, except perhaps that of human being. I am a human being. Fair enough. Doesn't say very much. But when you say I am successful, that's crazy. Success is not part of the I. Success is something that comes and goes. It could be here today and gone tomorrow. That's not I. When you said I was a success, you were in error. You were plunged into darkness. You identified yourself with success. The same thing when you said I am a failure, a lawyer, a businessman. You know what's going to happen to you if you identify with these things. You're going to cling to them. You're going to be worried that they may fall apart. And that's where your suffering comes in. That is what I meant earlier when I said to you, if you're suffering, you're asleep. Do you want a sign that you're suffering? Here it is. Sorry, I think I missed. Suffering is a sign that you're out of touch with the truth. Suffering is given to you that you might open your eyes to the truth, that you might understand that there's falsehood somewhere. Just as physical pain is given to you so you will understand that there is a disease or illness somewhere. Suffering points out that there is falsehood somewhere. Suffering occurs when you clash with reality. When your illusions clash with reality, when your falsehoods clash with truth, then you have suffering. Otherwise, there would be no suffering. It goes on, but I think...
Beautiful, Benno, so we can notice our labels.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, if you really think about it, it's all your conditioning. You name everything. You go through life, and all those names, when they pop up, they trigger the feelings. And that's when you get kind of caught up in that moment. You're no longer aware because you're caught up in the feeling, and that leads to other thoughts and other labels, and it just goes on and on. He goes on to say that labels are really that identification. It's us being identified with our conditioning.
Are these labels our choice points? Just asking, are they our choice points, these labels?
I think so, because at that moment when you choose label, when you choose that concept of somebody or something or a situation or even a feeling, when you name it, you're already going down that road of being lost. And it's at that moment when you see something, if you can see it without naming it, without labeling it, then you can remain disentangled from the process that is trying to draw you in.
We often give labels, so let's give some good ones.
My wife, my husband, all these things are labels. They're loaded with expectations, and what does it mean when you say I am this or I am that? It means there are expectations associated with it. And that's really what relationship is, isn't it? I mean, you have roles, and those roles are really labels, another name for labels. And with that is associated expectations, So how can you be in relationship without labels? How can you be in a relationship without naming? Is that possible? I'm almost thinking that you can't have relationship in the present moment. That's the conclusion I've come to.
Well,
relationship. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm discovering that a good label invites the open space of good feeling, and a bad label somehow invites a contraction. And when I say open space of good feeling, I don't mean like escaping something that's unpleasant, because first I need to inquire into what I am feeling here now. If there is a contraction here now, then I can ask about it and know that it's not true, because we know that our contractions are not true. So being a human is a story. It's part of the experiencing. It's going to be a story. So can we create a sort of more open, good feeling story?
You could, but it wouldn't be true.
Oh, wouldn't it?
Oh, wouldn't it? No. I don't know. I mean, excuse me. Go ahead.
No, go on.
No. Your turn.
Well, yeah, it's like, I think you raise an interesting point, Reenah, because it's something that has confused me. The whole thing about our thinking mind. We kind of see the thinking mind as an enemy, or our thoughts. We know that they are not us, and we know that we want to move living from here into our bodies, and yet we can use our thoughts, like you suggested there, in a really powerful way to create. These are thoughts that we are creating from a deep part of ourselves, rather than the thoughts that are psychological baggage from the past, the repetitive useless, stale thoughts. We can use our thoughts in a positive way. Eckhart doesn't really talk much about that, and I'd like to hear him talking more about manifesting, not in a, I'm not talking about in a way just to satisfy ego longings, but in a way that creates a life, a full life that wants to be lived through us.
This
And this
is
is the
what
way
I've
that,
been discovering lately,
Yeah.
Barb. This is exactly what I've been discovering, that every contraction that is happening is related to an undistinguished thought that somehow is running, or a story like. Sure, ultimately we know we are the vastness, and to acknowledge Tom, yes, the peace, and also we are human and here to embody this human experience. And I'm discovering that we can be really powerful human beings and create by inquiring into these thoughts, these undistinguished thoughts that are somehow running the show, that are contracting and creating a context. I'll give you an example, like the panda bears that are locked in those cages in China, and they've been locked in there since they've been babies all their lives for years, and then they open the door, and it takes some of them months before they can even realize they can step outside the cage. And so likewise with our thoughts, undistinguished thoughts, we live in a context. And as soon as, like, in my relationships with my partner or my daughters or my parents, if something is arising, I know that it's not true immediately. So now I can go right there and go, okay, what am I telling myself here? And to do this, I embody the feeling first, because to do a real inquiry, I have to embody what's here now. So it's not about escape and let's run to a pleasure trap, right?
Yeah.
It's more embodying the feeling is the way I inquire, and immediately it's released. As soon as I distinguish the thought, it's released, and then I'm in what we call the spaciousness, the space, the place where I can create from and create this human experiencing.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean, because this is also what I found out for myself. And it's not that much the thoughts or the labels, it's really the judgment. I mean, it's really the judgment that is at the bottom of this. And as you say, I mean, each feeling of aversion, points to a judgment. And doing the inquiry, but I mean, based basically on this feeling of embodiment, really very quickly leads you to this, and it's being released, and it gets you to another frequency, or in the space where creation actually can happen. And I noticed this, I mean, it's really funny. I noticed this quite recently. It's effortless, it goes quickly, it's just amazing. I mean, all it takes is to go to a space or to go to that space where you do not have any baggage or burden in terms of your judgments.
I'd like
So
to.
is there any final comments here? Because wow, this 90 minutes has gone so fast, and I'd like to wind up and invite everyone to final comment before I wind up.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here and make a final comment, Reenah. I found what you were reading there earlier, Benno, to be compelling in a couple of places. And I think I understood, and I just wanted to bring this point out. You said that whoever you were quoting there said that suffering is an indication that you have fallen into unconsciousness. And that to me is extraordinarily interesting because, I mean, what is suffering really? It's to me is I wouldn't define suffering as just emotional distress, you know, because I, like I said a few minutes ago, I mean, I still do feel, and I suppose I always will have the capacity to feel, at least on the surface, an emotional distress of one form or another, occasionally, you know, in form of anxiety or whatever. That to me is not suffering because I'm seeing it. And a couple of you made that point. If I'm seeing something, whether it's primarily a thought or whether it's primarily emotion, and of course, as Eckhart has said, these tend to go in couplets. Thoughts and emotions go together. They're attached to each other. It's no matter what it is. If you identify yourself as the witness that is seeing these things, or the space within which these things are happening. Space and witness, these are two synonymous terms. They mean exactly the same thing. Then you're not suffering. But suffering is identification as the little me. If I genuinely believe deep down, if I'm working off of an assumption, a deeply unquestioned, unconscious assumption that I am a little guy named Tom, you know, I was born in such and such a year, I have these attributes, you know, this, I live here, I do this for a living. If that's who I believe I am, and of course, as Eckhart repeatedly says, 90% of the human race still lives with that unquestioned assumption. That is suffering. That means that most people that you run into in your day is still operating from that suffering. And so it's kind of like, yeah.
I was going to say, perhaps suffering is a wrong-headed label and something we've inherited from collective consciousness.
Right. Yeah. And so I guess just to end what I'm about, you know, what I'm saying here, Reenah, is allow yourself to feel. What the difference does it make? The peace that you are is deeper than any distress that you possibly could be feeling at any time. And identify as that, disidentify with the little me. Okay, I'm finished.
Thanks, Tom.
Is there anyone else have any final comments?
Yeah, I just want to say it's really great to see all you guys. Reenah, Barb, Michaela, Tom. Just the five of us. How intimate. How nice.
Yeah.
It's so lovely. It's been so wonderful to hang out with all of you, and I feel each and every one of you, you know, I feel your hearts just so much deeper in this format, and I hope we can go deeper with this in more Hangouts to come.
Yeah, this is my first Hangout.
Mine too. Yeah.
I'll come more prepared next time.
And hopefully we've encouraged some more people to come as well.
Yes.
You know, some
it's great
in the forum. So I want to thank you all so much for coming and sharing, and also I realize it's just after midnight where Michaela is, and it's her birthday.
That's good. That reminds me.
So
yeah.
Happy birthday, Michaela.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So 39, right?
About, yes.
Jack Benny, you know.
So I'm wearing my birthday hat. I'm wearing my birthday hat here.
I'm looking
and
for mine.
Wishing
I'm having my birthday cake.
Well, I'll just have to wear my birthday
I'm
suit.
having a birthday cake.
And I've got my...
Oh, here it is.
That's wonderful.
Look at this.
Yeah. Oh, and she's got a crown on. This is great. See, this is some of the fun we can be having on the
what I really like is this.
Yeah. That's
okay, I'll put on one of my things. What about this one? Duality.
Cut up that cake, Michaela. Cut up that cake.
All right, let's cut a piece of the cake.
Yeah.
Love to everybody. And thank you so much for...
Thank you, Reenah.
Thank you so much for being here, and love to everyone out there too. Bye.
Okay, Reenah. Hope to talk to you soon. Okay.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Reenah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
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 Bye, Bob.
Bye, Thanos. See you.
In your heart, maybe you should give your mind a rest and put its main assumption to the test. Just let go and see who leads the best.